Have you ever wondered why your ribs don't come out as tender and juicy as you imagined? Trust me, you're not alone. I've been there too. I've made my fair share of mistakes, but the good news is I've learned how to avoid them, and I'm here to help you do the same. In this video, I'll walk you through 4 common rib cooking mistakes, including one that almost nobody talks about. Along the way, I will share how to keep your ribs from drying out, why timing is everything when it comes to great barbecue, the key to getting that perfect balance of flavor, and the one sneaky mistake that can ruin everything. Let's start with the first one, underestimating the power of the dry rub. Let's talk about something that doesn't get enough love in the rib world, the dry rub. Yeah, it's all about adding flavor, but it does so much more than that. Take salt for an example. When you rub it on the ribs, it starts pulling moisture from the surface. Sounds bad, right? Like, why would I want my ribs to lose moisture? But it's actually a good thing. Here's what's happening. The salt draws out the water, which creates a little brine that gets pulled back into the meat as it cooks. This locks in moisture, keeping your ribs juicy. Plus, salt helps break down the protein fibers, making the meat tender and easy to bite into. And let's not forget the spices. Paprika, garlic powder, and sugar, they're not just there to taste good. When the heat hits, they work together to form that beautiful caramelized crust, also known as the bark. You know, that slightly crispy layer that seals in all that smoky, juicy goodness. The tip here is, don't skip on the rub. Be generous and cover every inch of those ribs. But here's the kicker, even the best dry rub can't save you if you make this next mistake. Let's talk about overcooking and why it's the ultimate rib killer. Overcooking ribs is like walking a tightrope. You think you're safe, but one misstep and it's game over. When ribs stay on the heat for too long, all that moisture inside starts to vanish. What's left? Meats that's dry, chewy, and way too tough to enjoy. Here's what's happening. As ribs cook, the connective tissue slowly melts, which is a good thing. That's what gives you that fall off the bone texture. But if you leave them on too long, the muscle fibers tighten up, squeezing out all the juices. The result, instead of tender juicy ribs, you're left with something that feels like eating cardboard. So how do you avoid this? First, let's talk about the pullback method. As ribs cook, the meat shrinks and starts to pull back from the ends of the bones. When you see about 1/4 of an inch of the bone exposed, that's your first clue that you're getting close to being done. Next up, grab your meat thermometer. Looking for internal temperature of about 195 degrees to 203 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the sweet spot where the collagen breaks down perfectly without drying out the meat. Don't trust appearances alone. Those ribs might look amazing on the outside, but still be overcooked on the inside. Even if you nail the timing, there's one mistake that can sabotage your ribs. Let's talk about why cooking over direct heat can be a major disaster. If you're just getting started with backyard barbecue and need a hand with cooking times and temperatures, I've got a free guide that covers it all, from meats to veggies and everything in between. Drop a 100 in comments and I'll send it over to you. Let's be real, putting your ribs right over the high flames might seem like a quick way to get that perfect sear, but it's a recipe for disaster. High heat can scorch the outside of the ribs, leaving the inside undercooked, or worse, dry and rubbery. Let's face it, nobody wants a rib that tastes like burnt crust on the outside and regret on the inside. So what's the fix? Indirect heat. By keeping your ribs away from the direct flames and letting them cook low and slow, you're giving the heat time to do its job. This method allows the fat to render down slowly, soaking the meat with flavor and keeping it juicy. Plus, it prevents those burnt edges that can ruin an otherwise mouth-watering rack of ribs. Think of it this way, cooking ribs is a marathon, not a sprint. Set up your grill for indirect cooking, whether it's a 2-zone fire on a charcoal grill or turning off one burner on the gas grill. Then, let the ribs do their thing with gentle, steady heat. The payoff? Ribs that are tender, evenly cooked, and bursting with flavor. But even if you've nailed the cooking technique, there's one more mistake that can throw it all off: checking doneness the wrong way. Looking for a summary of this video so that you don't make these mistakes ever again? Then check the link in the comments. Let's talk about why relying on looks alone can be a big letdown. Here's the trap. Judging your ribs on how they look might seem like the easiest way to tell if they're done, but looks can be deceiving. Sure, they might have the gorgeous caramelized bark and look ready to eat, but inside, they could still be undercooked, or worse, overcooked to the point of being dry and chewy. The fix? Don't just rely on what you see. Instead, use a meat thermometer or try the bend test. Let me break it down for you. For the bend test, grab the rack with a pair of tongs and gently lift one end. If the ribs bend and the meat starts to crack just slightly along the surface, they're perfectly tender. If they flop like a noodle, they're overcooked. If they stay stiff, they're not ready yet. But what if you prefer more precision? A meat thermometer is your secret weapon. Insert it in between the bones, aiming for an internal temperature of about 190 degrees to 203 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the sweet spot. When the collagen is melted, leave the ribs juicy and fall off the bone tender without being mushy. Mastering this step is like unlocking the final piece of the puzzle. Now, you see your ribs, you cook them low and slow, and nailed that perfect doneness. But here's the thing, putting all these tips together is what transforms common rib cooking mistakes into a true barbecue masterpiece. Are you ready to take it to the next level? This video right here walks you through the step-by-step process of smoking ribs that are juicy, tender, and cooked to perfection on the pit barrel cooker, a classic charcoal barrel smoker. Click right here to watch it, and I'll see you there.